Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Nothing Notable podcast. I'm here with my friends Daniel Elmore, Tyler Justin Prine, and I am Jack Hubert. We got a very fun episode for you today that we had a great time recording. SNL Fantasy Draft, building our perfect SNL casts. It was a great time. A lot of fun with my buddies.
Jack, you're the SNL boy, so you can go ahead and start this.
All right. We got our all-time SNL fantasy draft here. Very fun concept. We're going to lay out some ground rules for this. How about?
So ground rules, we're doing an 8-person cast.
Yes, sir.
We're doing one host in addition to the 8-person cast, which we will be picking from a hat at the beginning of the draft. And that's going to dictate also how we make our lists, therefore going forward, because each host brings something different to the table. And then you kind of want your cast to do, help them out in whatever way they can. So 8-person draft, one host, snake draft. So 1, 2, 3, and then the person who picks third picks fourth, so on and so forth. I'm going first.
A lot of pressure with that one.
Really nervous. I just mentioned this before we started recording, but this was the thing that I was dreading the most. This actually, I put more time into thinking about what happens if I get the number one pick than anything else, because this, I don't know. As we're talking, I mean, up until the moment of, I'm going to be thinking about this. I'm undecided at the moment.
It's a very tough decision to make. There's a, it might be a hot take. There's a lot of very talented, funny people who have been on SNL through its 44 years of history.
There's also a lot of random people on SNL.
There are a lot of random people on this list as well.
Right, which we should just briefly mention because there are so many funny people that were on the cast for 1 or 2 years, maybe even more, but they're not going to be on our list because they're just not quintessentially SNL.
A Jenny Slate,
right?
Perhaps.
Yeah, Jenny Slate's hilarious. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is hilarious.
Jim Belushi is hilarious.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, so if we were just picking on pure talent and star power, I mean, Robert Downey Jr.'s got to go on your list, but that just doesn't make sense for an SNL list at all.
Yeah. Now, if this was like a Marvel, who would lead your Marvel movie list?
Yeah.
He'd probably be near the top.
Yeah.
Right up there with Jim Belushi.
Yeah.
And Maya Rudolph.
I really like Maya Rudolph.
I do too.
Oh, man.
She's definitely on my list.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
Did we just reveal the number one pick?
Number one overall pick.
PTA's partner.
Yeah. So a couple of things before we start the draft. I want to talk about draft philosophy. And then after that, I want to talk about how you, Jack, who you were tasked with selecting the hosts, and I just want to talk about how you thought through the host selections. But first, let's talk about draft philosophy. Usually draft philosophy is just pick the best player available, which I don't think works in an SNL draft.
I don't either.
I think that there's more to it than just pure talent. I'm curious if you guys think the same thing.
I would agree with you on that. My personal philosophy for this, without giving too much away, is I want a well-balanced cast, I should say. I don't want anyone who, personally, I'm going to pick this person and it's going to become the blah, blah, blah show. I want my cast to be able to lift up my host and make them the star of the show.
I totally agree. Tyler, what are you thinking going into this draft?
Going into this draft, I'm thinking more or less what people make me laugh the most and what
Jim Belushi. But more so that I feel like my type of humor is it can be very subtle sometimes and very not showy. So similar to Jack, I'm not going for people I think that it would become the Jim Belushi show, or if that's possible, or something like that. But I'm definitely going for people that are either inspirational to me personally, people that I really look up to and I find their humor very fun. But I feel similar to my humor, someone who can be the star if they want to be, but they can also pull back and be a good supporting role. And that's what I'm going for with this draft mostly, but also mainly people that make me smile and a cast that isn't filled with a bunch of dickheads, because SNL has a lot of talented people, but also a lot of dickheads. So what you're saying is Chevy Chase is not on your draft board.
Chevy Chase is not on my draft board. And I'm happy to say that I will never draft Chevy Chase unless it's
something like
For Vietnam.
or something like that. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of other components you have to consider with this draft too. Like, you got to think about the SNL format, right?
Right.
So you got to have someone who can do your weekend update for you. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to pick someone who's done weekend update before.
Right.
But you need someone who can slot in there. You need someone who can give you some impressions. You need someone who can do the weekend update desk bit characters that come on. You got to consider all these different components here.
There's a few sort of typical SNL sketches. There's Unleash the Animal sketches where, somebody like Will Ferrell or John Belushi will just go nuts. One of my favorite all-time sketches, which I hadn't seen until fairly recently, is a Chris Farley sketch. Oh God, I forget what it is. It's like the Schiller commercial test or something like that. It's basically like the Swedish TV show where they have a hidden camera set up and they reveal to people like, hey, did you know that you're drinking like this different type of coffee than you thought you were drinking? And then they show one particular reaction, and it's Chris Farley, and he displays everything that is great about Chris Farley. It's a really good performance. He slowly devolves into madness and then starts destroying the room, like literally just breaking everything and attacking. So there's sketches like that where you just release the animal. There's also game show sketches. They do a lot of game show stuff. So that's also something I'm looking for, somebody that maybe could be a game show host. There's also just, in terms of characters, that you have to have somebody who could play the straight man, somebody who could be that wild card, impressionist, like you mentioned, weekend update type panelists. Now, going into this, I think something that we all just talked about was versatility. I think we're all looking for versatility in our performers. And with the number one pick, I'm not taking it yet. I'm just saying.
Well, you got to pick your host still.
Right. But with the number one pick, in a lot of drafts, the pound for pound just funniest person will go. There's a lot of top contenders. Your Belushi, your Farley, your Ferrell, your Murphy.
Some of them have more pounds than other.
Yeah. And that's really where I'm struggling. So I just wanted to let you into the thought process where I'm at right now.
The mind of SNL general manager Daniel Elmore.
Right. Yeah. But first, let's do the host.
The host.
Because that's going to dictate more than anything else.
Yeah. I got a bag of hosts here. I tried to pick more recent hosts, personally. They're all like within the last 5 years or so, I would say. And a big thing for me, what makes a good host on SNL is someone who's like really going to go for it.
Right.
And is basically like down for whatever the writers in the cast has in store for them. And I think all of these hosts here embody that.
All right, so let's go ahead and
go
select
ahead.
our hosts.
Daniel, do you want to look at your host first?
Yes. Okay. Justin Timberlake.
Okay. Not bad.
No, that's I'm cool with Justin Timberlake.
That's interesting because I feel like that is a good pick to have like Andy Samberg or someone like that eventually in your pet draft,
Right, the familiarity aspect, that is certainly something that's important. I think Justin Timberlake, like you said, he's always down to clown. He's going to do whatever it takes. He's a natural performer. I'm cool with this.
Drake.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, I've not seen a lot of Drake's SNL, but what I have seen, I remember he was too down to clown, and also just like in general, it's always good to have Dan and I have this with our hosts, like someone who's musically inclined. You can get a lot of fun out of that, I think, and also, I guess we have our musical guest also.
There you go.
That is a great point. I like Drake. I like Justin Timberlake. Both of them definitely not afraid to be goofy, which is sort of, not commonplace for entertainers that aren't necessarily actors or sketch performers. Jack, who is your host?
Melissa McCarthy.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
Fun stuff here. Okay.
You got a cast member. Was she on
No,
the show?
she wasn't
Really?
on. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
She won an Emmy, though.
She did win an Emmy, though.
Sean
She's
Spicer.
always very good when she's on.
She certainly is. Yeah, and she has that background. I think she was in Groundlings in Los Angeles when she first started her career. So she definitely has that sketch background. So that's a big advantage.
I'm a big fan of this one here.
That's a good that's oh boy.
Oh boy, we got some fun stuff here.
Okay. Shall we commence the official 2020 SNL draft?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a reminder, I have the number 1 pick. Tyler has the number 2 pick. Jack has the 3 and then the 4 because it's a snake draft.
Yes, sir.
And as a reminder, my host is Justin Timberlake. This works I think, in my advantage for my particular draft philosophy, because the reason I was so nervous about having the number one pick was I felt like I was going to be suckered into taking the number one pick, if you catch my drift. I felt like I was going to have to take one of these pound for pound great all-time cast members, the people that you'll see on the tops of the list always, without question. However, I think what Justin Timberlake gives me is a host that's not afraid. Because so often when you get a host that is timid or nervous, or maybe they're a little bit too serious of an actor, something in that capacity, they're not prepared for sketch work, you usually pair them with a guy like Will Ferrell, who's going to blow the house down and make them look great. But I'm not too worried about that with Justin Timberlake. I think he's a fairly versatile performer as well. He can be pretty bold and pretty big. He can also be pretty subtle. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And that's why, and this may shock some folks, it may not. I don't know. I think I think anything will and will not shock us. So I think with the number one pick, I'm taking Kate Mckinnon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a good number one pick.
I'm taking Kate Mckinnon. And I wrestled with this a lot. Some of the other number one pick options that I was wrestling with, I mentioned Will Ferrell, just a pound for pound guy who, in every sketch he's in, is going to bring that Saturday Night Live house down. Another guy I was thinking of was Eddie Murphy, a guy who sort of single-handedly carried the show for quite some time. But the reason I chose Kate McKinnon was because of exactly what we were talking about, this versatility. I think Kate McKinnon is able to do literally anything that you ask of her. She can play the most bombastic and crazy characters, and she can also play the subtlest of characters. She's also able to fit in as a second, third, fourth, even fifth fiddle sometimes in sketches. She fits in any capacity. She sort of is your positionless player. And I'm very happy that I'm taking her with the number one overall pick. And I think that she's going to work really well with Justin Timberlake. I think that they have silly energies that'll work in simpatico.
I think that's a very solid pick right there.
I just want to say I think Kate McKinnon is one of the funniest people ever to be on SNL, and I think she's a great first pick, really.
Yeah. Oh, and just one more thing also. I think as I was narrowing down who I might select with the number one pick, I kept coming back to Kate McKinnon, but I kept convincing myself not to take her with the number one pick if I were to get it. But then I realized, with the number one pick, you kind of want a star. And the difference between her as a star of SNL currently and someone like Will Ferrell as a star of yesteryear is Will Ferrell takes over a sketch. As you mentioned before, Jack, it becomes the Will Ferrell show. It becomes the so on and so forth show. It becomes the Chris Farley sketch. But Kate McKinnon can fit in just perfectly well, as I mentioned. So I'm really happy with Kate McKinnon. On to the number two pick.
Cool, number two pick. So I think Kate McKinnon was probably my personal number two. So like if she was still around, I would pick her second. I thought about this one a lot. And their current work is probably a main reason that I'm choosing them, but I think that they're a great writer, like impressionist, and overall I think they add like a lot to any SNL sketch they're like writing on or they're in. I'm gonna pick Bill Hader.
I was gonna go with Bill Hader for my pick here.
Bill Hader. I mean, Barry is one of the best shows on television right now, and like I think that definitely plays a role in my thinking behind this, because like obviously like he can write a show like that, but he can also be like super goofy Vincent Price. Bill Hader is just overall again one of my favorite SNL cast members, and definitely my first pick. And I think you need strong writers with someone like Drake, who doesn't have a sketch background but is pretty much down for anything. So I'm gonna go with Bill Hader, and also Bill Hader can like come in really anything. Weekend Update, he can. But no, Bill Hader also is a great game show host, and that's one of the things him and Mulaney constantly do. And I don't know. Like maybe he can bring John Mulaney on too as a writer. So who knows? But
thinking about all those externalities there.
Exactly, I'm thinking every externality.
You're a regular old Jerry Jones over here. Being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys gets you way more than the money that you're asking for, Dak.
Well, it's like picking Tom Brady. Some people are gonna go to the Bucs with him.
Yeah, that's
there you go. That's a great reference.
And that's a really good pick. Bill Hader is my favorite SNL cast member. If he, I mean, I didn't expect him to fall to my next pick, but if he was there, he was going to be without question my guy. And for all the same reasons that you just mentioned, I think he's a great pick. He can do game show, he can play panelist, and in a circumstance, he could be the Weekend Update host even.
He's just incredibly versatile in every way. He can write, direct, and act.
That's a very respectable pick there.
Thanks.
You made it difficult for me now because Bill Hader was, he was at the top of my draft board. That was the guy I was targeting here. So I'm going to call an audible here. And with my pick, I'm going to go with Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
I think Kristen Wiig is a very versatile comedian. I think she can give me goofy characters. I think she can get some impressions in there. I could have her do desk bits on Weekend Update. There's a lot of things I like with Kristen Wiig. I think she could be a star of the sketch. I think she could be a supporter in a sketch. I'm a big fan.
As am I. I was wrestling at one point with Kristen Wiig as well as one of my top picks. She is so goofy, but she's also a really great actor just in general. And I think for me, for my draft philosophy, one of the things that I'm looking for is just really good actors. And I think part of this draft is revealing sort of what we enjoy most in comedy, but also just in entertainment just generally. And the performers that I'm going to pick are really just great actors because I want to have that sincerity. And I think Kristen Wiig really does deliver that whenever she needs to. But she also can just fly off the handle and be completely crazy. Right. Yeah. And like you said, can do characters, impressions, all sorts of stuff. It's a good pick.
Thank you.
And something I kind of noticed with all our first picks, like they all bounce off of each other really well. Like for my first couple picks, I was gonna choose Bill Hader number one, and then kind of get like a Kate McKinnon or a Kristen Wiig to kind of bounce off Bill Hader, because I think all three of them really work well together. Like the cat sketch with Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon, and then just Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig were on so long together. But yeah, I think they all bounce off of each other really well, and I like all of our first picks a lot.
Yeah, and I think Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy could do some very interesting stuff for me in a sketch. It'd be very entertaining to watch.
For sure. I think that's three really good picks. Before we go on to the second round, let's just talk about the first round. Didn't select any classic stars.
No classic stars yet.
And I'm curious, without giving too much away about your particular draft board, where do those guys and gals kind of fit in to your world right now as you're going forward?
Well, for me personally, it's all about the style of show I want to have, because I think when you have some of those older folks, not that they're not funny or extremely talented, but it's a different style of comedy than a lot of what we see nowadays. And I don't know. The board would have to fall correctly for them to fit into my roster.
In my draft board, at least, there are a couple stars from yesteryear that I do want to pick, but I'm going with my core first, I think, and then hopefully if they're still available. For example, I don't know if you guys will pick this person, but I kind of have my impressionist out of the way. So if Bill Hader was picked, I would have eventually picked Phil Hartman, who is wonderful, and I think he would very well mesh with modern SNL. But I don't think I'm going to pick him anymore. But Phil Hartman was definitely up there, and he's more of a 90s, early 2000s
very similar to Bill Hader.
Exactly.
Same type of player. Don't know if you need two power-hitting first basemen on your team.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
All right, so let's go on to the second round. Jack, you're starting the second round because of the snake draft. Number 4 overall pick.
So this one here, honestly, tougher decision than my first round pick. Because what I'm debating on here now is I have a particular person who I really want on my team, but I think they might be available there the next time we go around. And I'm not sure if this other person will.
Yeah.
But so the question becomes, because there's 4 picks now in between when I go next.
Right.
So the question is, do I get the person that I want more, but who I think will be there later? Or do I swing for the fences here with this individual? And I think I'm going to swing for the fences, and I'm going Tina Fey with my pick.
Very good pick.
Great pick.
I thought you were thinking someone else.
No.
And I'm happy that I'll be able to steal them from you.
Okay. You go ahead
I'm
and
a
pick
bastard.
Jim Belushi. But,
Yeah. Joe Piscopo, Jim
but
Belushi.
Tina Fey, I think, first of all, I got my head writer out of the way here now. Tina Fey can write all this shit for everyone else on the show right now.
Yeah.
I can stick her behind the desk to do Weekend Update. She's also very funny in sketches. There's a lot of things I can do with Tina Fey here.
Very well known for her impression of Sarah Palin.
Classic.
But was one of the biggest voices on the show for a long time. As a writer, clear pick. As a performer, what do you see so far with your 3 picks, or your 2 picks and your host altogether?
Well, first of all, I got a very strong female cast so far. And I personally, with my draft philosophy, I wanted to get a good balance of male and female performers. And right now I'm achieving that. Although I have no males yet, there's a whole slew of males. There's a whole slew of female cast members too. But I feel like I got 2 of the strongest ones in the history of the show. As for performers, I think, again, I don't know if Tina Fey can so much take over a sketch and be like the lead, although she is very funny. But I think she can definitely be a supporter in a sketch. And additionally, I think her versatility to throw her behind the desk with Weekend Update, I got that person out of the way if I want to. Maybe I'll grab another person to pair with her. I don't know. You don't know.
I think that's a good pick. Tyler.
Yeah. Definitely Tina Fey's great, and it's funny because like all of our first picks, like I definitely had them on my list too, and Tina Fey was definitely my next pick. But
That's why I had to go with her.
yeah,
There was another person I want, but I think they might be there later on still.
exactly. And yeah, about your balance on male and female, I'm definitely going for that too. So that's why I think I'm going to pick my first female right now and kind of break, I guess, like a couple that could have really formed well with your stuff. I'm going to pick Amy Poehler.
Oh.
I think Amy Poehler, again, you can stick her behind the desk. You can put her in the background of a sketch. You can put her in front of a sketch. But I think Amy Poehler is wonderful and extremely, again, it's that word we keep saying, like versatile. She can do dry humor really well. She can do like outrageous, look at me humor, which is great. And yeah, Amy Poehler, love Parks and Rec.
I'll be honest with you. Amy Poehler was someone that I would have had on my list 2 or 3 weeks ago, but then I've seen too many Peacock commercials in the last few weeks, and I got annoyed by her, so I took her off my list.
Wow. Well, have you seen the 30 Rock Peacock special?
Nope.
Because I think that might put a sour taste in Tina Fey's mouth.
Well, I haven't seen it
for you.
That doesn't exist.
Great.
That's a really great pick. That's tough for me. Both of those picks, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I probably would have taken them back to back if they hadn't been taken because of the snake draft. Any other thoughts on Amy Poehler before we go on?
No, but there is someone who I just noticed on this list here who I hate. Anyways. Look, everyone knows about my disdain for Rob Riggle.
Yes.
I forgot he was a cast member.
Oh my God, he was a cast member.
Yeah,
Wow.
so with my next pick, I'm going with Rob Riggle.
Wow, you jumped both of Dan's pick and my pick.
Yeah, exactly.
You get Rob
I
Riggle.
had to trade up in the draft, and I'm going Rob Riggle, Jim Belushi, 1-2.
Okay, so I have back-to-back picks now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is tough. For me, I think, Jack, you mentioned something earlier about where some of these people are going to fall in terms of like the old stars. And I think the female cast members are sort of like the quarterbacks of this draft. They go higher, in my mind, because there's such a slew of backup white guys that you could take later in the draft.
There's so many white
So
guys.
many white guys.
So many white guys. A tremendous amount of white guys.
Tremendous white guys. So many.
So, for me, I think it's important to get the best female cast members early. So, I think for me, right now, I'm going to go with Maya Rudolph.
Yep, that was great.
Next
Great
on
pick.
my list.
Next on my list, too.
Right now, just as a reminder, I have Kate Mckinnon and Maya Rudolph. Those are my 2 picks. And Justin Timberlake is my host. I think Kate McKinnon and Maya Rudolph, both tremendous with impressions. Maya Rudolph, Beyonce, Kamala Harris. She is so big at times. And again, So subtle. I feel like I'm going to say the same thing about a lot of my cast members because that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's just that ability to switch into a dramatic turn. And I think Maya Rudolph is able to do that as well as Kate McKinnon. I think both of them can be as nuanced as possible, but they can also be as big as possible. It just gives me the most ability within any given sketch. And I think, again, they both work very well with Justin Timberlake, who has that fun-loving sort of personality. Thoughts on Maya Rudolph?
Yeah. So interesting thing that just happened is that Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph were kind of like a big three at SNL, and they all just got split up. Big four if you include Rachel Dratch in that group, who is also very funny.
Who is on my board.
She's a wild card, I think. I don't want to step on anyone's toes here. We'll maybe get to her later. But yeah, I love Maya Rudolph. I think, again, the key word is versatile. There's a lot you can do with Maya Rudolph here. And if we're talking about current times, you got her playing Kamala Harris for you. So
we have maybe a few months or maybe 4 years of Kamala Harris impressions. Who knows?
Or maybe 12 years. Maya Rudolph's going to be on your show for 12 more years.
So I've got Kate McKinnon, I've got Maya Rudolph, and I have the next pick. Now this one's pretty tough. There are some cast members that I feel like I can get later, and I feel like I'm in a similar position as you, Jack, when you mentioned that you either take the person you want or you hope that they fall later. And I think that I'm going to take Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. Yep.
Now, Eddie Murphy, I went back and forth on as my potential number one pick. Eddie Murphy, I went back and I watched a lot of his sketches, not all of them. I'm not as big of an SNL head as Jack is, but Eddie Murphy was SNL for a long time. However, he doesn't embody all the same things that I see in, and it feels like I'm bagging on Will Ferrell, who also I was tossing around as a potential number one pick, but I really like Will Ferrell. Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell, both stars of SNL. The difference for me, though, I feel like Eddie, one, as an actor, is just a superior actor. Two, he has more modes of comedy than Will Ferrell does, in my opinion. Someone like Will Ferrell is screaming or kind of a doofus. You know, those are the modes, and I love both of those modes, and they make me laugh almost every time. But Eddie Murphy can basically just be himself. He can be Gumby. He can be, I mean, what a character like that is, Gumby. I mean, just insane. He gives me so much. Also a musical talent. Him and Justin Timberlake. Give me a James Brown and Justin Timberlake sketch.
You're getting something great there.
I think so. Thoughts on Eddie Murphy?
Kept SNL alive. I think he's one of the, again, best cast members of all time because he literally kept the show afloat for so long.
That's a very strong pick there. Do you have any concerns at all about it becoming the Eddie Murphy show? Because he is such a dominant, powerful character.
There's definitely some concern. However, you do need star power, for sure. Even if he's the main subject of a sketch, he doesn't necessarily take over the sketch. He can if he wants to, and he often does, but I don't think that there is a need to please the audience as much as somebody like, not an SNL cast member, but just a quick side story. Someone like Jim Carrey has a desire to jump around and please the audience no matter what it takes. Will Ferrell is similar. He will yell as loud as humanly possible, and it gets a laugh. Eddie Murphy doesn't feel quite as desperate in his need to humor the audience. So I feel like he can fit in whatever capacity we put him in. And I think with the other cast members that I have, I think all of them, I think Maya Rudolph and Kate McKinnon can work well in any capacity. So even if it does become the Eddie Murphy show, I still have two really talented stars before that I've taken that would fit that mold as well. So I'm not too concerned about it becoming a Eddie Murphy powerhouse hour. So that was my second and third pick. Up next is Tyler.
Great. I like how you flipped over your thing like you had my name on it. Anyways, okay, so this pick, again, I feel like Maya Rudolph was probably my next pick. But I dealt with this for a while, you know. I was like, who should I pick next? I think I'm going to start, I said Bill Hader was a writer. I think I'm going to start stacking writers. And someone as like head writer currently who like I think has made SNL really good. I think this person can be paired with Amy Poehler on Weekend Update, which I would love to see, honestly. And I'm going to go with Michael Che. I think it's kind of like a random pick. He's really Weekend Update and writer heavy, but I think Michael Che is hilarious just in general. He's also like, I think he'd be a good chemistry guy, just hanging out as head writer there. And I don't know. I don't have much else to say about Michael Che, but I just thought I'd pick him now.
That's a very good pick in my opinion. I personally love Michael Che. I know the greater world is sort of split on him, on whether they like him or not. But no, I think he's great. It is, in a way, somewhat of a one-dimensional pick, because I haven't seen Michael Che do much sketch work, but I think he's excellent behind the desk, and you can definitely put him back there.
A really funny stand-up comedian as well, as so many cast members are, but I think Michael Che really just hits a particular funny bone in my mind. And you mentioned maybe half of the world, doesn't love him. Well, half the world can kiss our ass. Michael Che is hilarious.
Big fan.
Love Michael Che. Love everything that he's about. I think that definitely scratches an itch that you need. I do think you could have got him later, though.
I do think so, too.
But as long as you're happy with the pick, that's all that really matters.
But with most of my picks, I'm like, okay, these people are going, so I better pick people like I feel really strong about. And again, I think Michael Che in the writer's room, for me, is a big thing. Like that, was it a Jackie Robinson sketch he wrote? I think that's one of...
the first black man to boo Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, it was great. And again, with someone like diverse like Drake, I think having Michael Che at the helm is really important too.
Fun.
That's actually a really good point. Michael Che is sort of the mouthpiece of the culture currently. And Drake in a lot of ways is as well. So you get a lot of sort of pop culture between those two.
And again, I definitely think I could have had Jack pick 2 times and then still gotten Michael Che and like probably gotten another woman. But I have 3 women right now that I'm thinking of picking for next time around, and no matter what, I get one of them. So
look, if he's the best player available on your board, you got to go after there and get him. If you think he's the best fit for your system, put him on your team.
Absolutely. No shame in that. All right. On to the next pick. Jack, I believe you have back-to-back picks
I
here.
have back-to-back picks here.
And this is going to be 9 and 10.
Picks 9 and 10. Picks 3 and 4 for me. This person here is someone who I think fits in very well with the cast I have at the moment, and particularly with Kristen Wiig. I'm going with Fred Armisen here. A little bit of a reach, I think, in some ways. I maybe could have gone him later, but I really like his dynamic with Kristen Wiig. They are excellent in sketches together. I can have them as a duo, doing desk bits on Weekend Update. I really like the pick. I think it's very fun.
I think Fred Armisen is a guy that will go... I think he was destined to go in a back-to-back pick, if you catch my drift. I think he's one of those guys that is sort of a plug-and-play. You could put him in just about any sketch, and he'll fill any particular role. There's a couple of guys like that in the 2000s and 2010s that can really fill that need. They can jump in on just about any sketch.
Let's see where we all stand right now after we've had each, 3 picks?
Yes.
At this point? All right. My roster, I got Melissa McCarthy as my host, Kristen Wiig, Tina Fey, and Fred Armisen. I'm liking what I got so far. I like what's cooking in the kitchen.
I got Drake, Bill Hader, Amy Poehler, and Michael Che.
A good group as well.
Digging mine.
And my host is Justin Timberlake. I have Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, and Eddie Murphy.
Fun.
I think we're all feeling pretty good so far.
We're all feeling pretty good.
And what's remarkable is the amount of talent that's still left on the board.
There's so much talent on the board.
It's not a top-heavy draft. It's actually a bottom-heavy draft.
It is a bottom-heavy draft.
Because there's going to be guys like, Chevy Chase that probably doesn't get drafted in our top 8, but is remarkably talented.
Yeah, Jim Belushi.
Yeah. So, at this point in the draft, what are things that you're still kind of needing? For me right now, Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, Eddie Murphy, I'm still sort of looking for the Weekend Update aspect and sort of the writer aspect. I'm still looking for that right now. So those are things that I'm going to be considering as I go forward. But I still need more plug-and-play type actors as well. How about you guys?
I think right now what I am missing is like a leading straight man. type of person. I do not have that on my roster yet, but there's a lot of guys who I think fill that role on this list. So I'm okay. I'm comfortable waiting another round or so to pick that.
For me, I feel like I'm still looking for more or less the face. I think I have a lot of, again, not that it would be only the face, but like the face of like this cast. Just because like right now I think I have a lot of versatile players who can just like write the shit out of sketches. But again, more maybe some more outlandish people, which I think Bill Hader and Amy Poehler can definitely play. But you know, just a little more of that.
I mentioned that. You know what? I don't know what I mentioned. I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Were you going to say there was someone you really liked and you didn't pick yet?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll go with that. There's someone I really like who I haven't picked yet. I think this person has a lot of potential, and I'm going with Chris Redd here.
Great pick.
Great pick.
Again, might be someone who's coming off the board a little bit early, but is someone who I think's talent is off the charts. I think there's a lot of things I can do with Chris Redd on this show. He's got some excellent musical shorts that he does. And I'm a big old fan of his.
I really like Chris Redd as well. I think potential is a good word because he hasn't been utilized to his fullest potential yet.
But on my show, he is going to be.
Exactly. In a cast of 8 where he's able to shine, I think that's a big difference. In a cast of, I don't know, how many people are on SNL currently, give or take?
12 or so, I think.
Sure, yeah. He's sort of slips to the back, playing background characters, and he fits in those sketches as well as just a background actor. But I think the sky is the limit for Chris Redd. I think there's a lot more that can be done with him, and I think that's a good pick.
I did say I was going to pick a woman next, but I think, I don't know, I think I might go, see, I think I'm picking this person way too early. But again, similar to Chris Redd, I think he has a lot of potential.
Joe Piscopo.
And I think genuinely, if I didn't pick this person, and like if Daniel snatched him up next time, I'd be so mad. So I'm going with Bowen Yang.
Yang.
It's early, I know, but I definitely think he's one of my favorite people to watch up there. And as an Asian man myself, I think it's ridiculous that it took, 42, 43 years for...
Well, Asians aren't funny. Everyone knows that.
That's always what Lauren has said.
That's what Lauren has always said. That's not what I've said. That's what Lauren said.
But again, it's like someone that like really represents, I think, more so than just his talent at this point. And I think he has a lot of talent there. I think with the quarantine episodes, I think Bowen Yang has done some of the best stuff. And he always makes me laugh. And yeah, it's early, but I don't give a fuck.
With Bowen Yang, there's one particular sketch that made me go, oh, he's got the potential. It was a sketch that wasn't particularly great, but it was a sketch where he just had one line that just surprised me. And that's really what you want in a backup actor in a particular sketch, is you want them to really just hone in on their one or two lines and nail it. And that was a sketch where Will Ferrell played the drama teacher at a high school theater. The thing is that he hasn't put the cast list up yet, which is something that theater kids know all about. And then he comes out and he's this very big, insane drama teacher. He puts the cast list up, and Bowen Yang is in that sketch just as one of the theater kids, and he has a couple of lines in there. But of those couple of lines, he exudes funny and confidence, and he just has a lot of the hallmarks of a good performer, as he did in one of the Star Wars sketches, where he has this one line where he says, "He aggressed me."
Yeah.
He aggressed me. It was just, yeah, so Bowen Yang is a good pick, I think. All right, so now I'm up. I have back-to-back again?
You got back-to-back.
Okay.
Picks 4 and 5 for you.
This one is simultaneously a reach and not a reach, and I've got no problem picking them, no hesitation. Will Forte.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Will Forte is a guy who is so funny. He's a straight man, really great at playing sort of white yuppie guy, just sort of, shucks kind of humor. Also really good at being totally insane, MacGruber, and a good actor, as he displayed on Last Man on Earth and Nebraska, several other movies that he's done and TV shows. He's just a really good, versatile performer. He's also a plug-and-play guy. He's a guy that I feel like I could plug into any sketch and he'll work in any capacity. He can be, again, like a fifth lead in a sketch, or he could be the number one guy. I think he works really well with Eddie Murphy particularly. I think Eddie Murphy's sketches were so dominated by race and conversations about race, and I think Will Forte could masterfully play sort of the other character, the white guy in those sorts of sketches. I think that works really well. And I think he has just a positive energy that I'm looking for. I think positivity is something that's really important. A lot of the performers that I'm not going to be picking are sort of rooted in sort of mean-spirited humor. Chevy Chase, for example, sort of a humorist that is really sort of mean, but again, hilarious. But in the context of a small group of actors, I want goofiness and silliness, but also the ability to go dark. And I think Will Forte really delivers that.
I think Will Forte is one of the more underrated cast members in the history of SNL.
I agree. I think most of his success obviously coming after SNL, but even when you go back and look at some of his SNL history, it is a lot of really great sketches. And he finds his way into the backgrounds of a lot of great sketches as well. So I feel really good about that pick.
He was definitely someone who was, I was considering either him or Fred Armisen, because I feel like they fill somewhat similar roles in the cast, but definitely a great pick there. I'm a fan.
Yeah. And so now I'm going to my next pick. I have Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, Eddie Murphy, and Will Forte. This is tough. This is very, very tough. And so I think I got to make a controversial pick.
Uh-oh. Going with Jim Belushi.
I'm going with somebody that might not even be on your boards. He might be. I'm not sure, though. But I feel like I just got to have him. And I feel like, at this point, I'm just more solidified in my personal draft philosophy than I've ever been. I'm not going to take Will Ferrell. I'm not going to take John Belushi. I'm going to take a surprise, plug-and-play, terrific actor, Bobby Moynihan.
Bobby Moynihan.
Not on my list, but definitely terrific guy.
I'm a fan.
Bobby Moynihan was somebody that I did not appreciate at the time. I really disliked Bobby Moynihan.
I'm aware of this.
I disliked Bobby Moynihan quite a bit. I don't know. I can't even really put a finger on why I didn't like Bobby Moynihan at the time. But now after he's left the cast, I've gone back and I've watched a lot of the sketches that he was in. I think he's just a terrific actor. I think he's one of those guys who will go on to be just a great actor who has so much to give. And I think Bobby Moynihan could equally be a Best Supporting Actor nomination at the Oscars, as well as starting his own sketch show or doing his own thing. Just about anything he could do. Voice work. There's so much that he can do.
Yeah. And I will say it's really funny. John Mulaney tells a story about when he auditioned to be a cast member, and the people who auditioned were Donald Glover, Ellie Kemper, John Mulaney himself, and Bobby Moynihan. And out of those people, like, who would you think would get, SNL? And then, like, I feel like I would pick everyone else besides Bobby Moynihan, but there's a reason they picked Bobby Moynihan, and he's definitely grown on me over the years as well. I was not high on him 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is, that neither of us were big on him at the time. I think going back and looking at some of his stuff, even like Drunk Uncle, which is like that's like a classic SNL type character. It's just like be big, crazy, and do like one thing on weekend. And even that, the performance alone in that is actually pretty impressive. Like he sells drunk very well. It's not just a bombastic, crazy drunk guy. It's actually like, it's funnier because of how nuanced it is. And it's funnier coming through the screen after the fact than it is to the live audience. And I think that's kind of one of the things that I didn't register at the time. I think that's really what it is he reads beyond the live audience. He reads through the screen as well. And I laugh harder than the audience does often at Bobby Moynihan stuff. So I would go Will Forte and then Bobby Moynihan.
All right, I'm gonna hang out here for a sec.
Well, we can, as you're looking over your list, Jack and I can talk briefly about our rosters currently because we just went through another round.
Yeah. Right now on my team, I got Melissa McCarthy as the host. I got Kristen Wiig, Tina Fey. I got Fred Armisen, and I got Chris Redd. So I have an interesting cast right now, I would say.
What do you need in order to make this the perfect class for you? Because again, for me, I'm still looking sort of for the weekend anchor type.
Yeah.
The game show hosts, those kind of guys. I think I could get some of that with some of my folks, but they're not naturally there, I think Maya Rudolph could be a good weekend update host.
I think she could be too.
But not necessarily the one that you would think of.
Yeah. I think for mine, what I need at the current moment is I want a little more goofy energy still on my cast. And I also think, contrasting that, I want like just a generic straight guy in there. Just someone to play the straight man in a sketch.
And as you mentioned before, there's plenty of that.
Oh, we got like a good 8 of them still on the board, I think.
Yeah, you're feeling good about having a good running back in the 7th round.
I think I can scheme that production from that position.
I think I have my pick.
Great.
Yes, sir.
And I think this is going to end. Again, I think everyone's starring, but if there was going to be a section for featuring, again, this is another high potential draft. I see a lot of humor in this person. It might be controversial, but I'm gonna pick Melissa Villasenor.
I like it.
I think she's wonderful. I think she's cute, funny, all of the above. And she really, I was looking through my list and I kept being like, should I pick this straight white guy? Should I pick this straight white guy?
Yeah.
Should I pick the straight white woman? And then I came down to Melissa Villasenor, and she actually wasn't on my draft list. I had to do a little more research and be like, oh yeah, Melissa Villasenor. I find her really funny. And again, like, I think I keep coming back to this. Like, it's a similar thing with Bo and Yang. She has a lot of good one-liners and sketches. And also during quarantine, I felt like her own personal sketches that she wrote and shot and stuff were really, close to something I might think of, but also just really funny in general.
Yeah, Melissa Villasenor always brings a smile to my face. Yeah. I never, when she appears in a sketch, I'm never like, oh, here we go. It's always like, there we go.
Yeah.
Like, here she is.
I want to see more of her, and if I'm executive producer, she's going to be in more sketches.
Yeah. When you're making head writer Michael Che, put her in all the sketches.
You son of a bitch.
I like the pick. I think she's got great energy on her.
And I think the beauty of our choices now, it's like I feel like our let's say like our stabilizing picks, like our foundational picks are like kind of gone, and now we're just like building like a show that we want to see, which is kind of fun.
Now here's a quick thought before we go on to Jack's pick. I think Melissa Villasenor could succeed in a Weekend Update type role, like as an anchor of a show like that. I don't think necessarily Weekend Update, because it's a specific kind of thing that's required, but with her like just level of goofy energy and positivity in a news segment, I think that's a really fun show.
She can definitely come in to Weekend Update too, I believe.
I totally think she could have like a half-hour late night style show on like a streaming service or something.
And it would just be remarkably positive.
It really would be. It would be fun to watch.
And it would be different from the others,
Exactly.
It wouldn't be very political, probably. It wouldn't be cynical. It would just be...
I imagine some like heartwarming news in there.
Yeah. Jack, on to you.
All right.
And you have back-to-back picks.
Back-to-back picks here, which is a blessing and a curse sometimes.
Sure.
For this one here, I'm going to pick our first very old school cast member. I'm going with Gilda Radner.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, I love Gilda. I think...
Love Gilda.
Again, just one of those people, again, who just radiates positive energy. Goofy, fun. You could do a lot with her. I think she makes a great addition to my cast. I would love to see her and Kristen Wiig do sketches together.
Yeah.
Big fan of that pick there.
May I ask? Because I was really about to pick Gilda Radner, but I went with Melissa Villasenor. If I would have picked Gilda, is there... do you have a replacement in mind?
Well, I got like 4 more picks in this draft still, so let me get to there still.
Trying to sneak draft information
here. I got a pick right after this still.
Yeah.
So
Gilda Radner is probably not very well known at this point by most average SNL viewers.
By like our generation particularly.
Yeah, and I didn't know much about her before I watched the documentary Love Gilda, which is an all right documentary, but I think gets at the heart of what she was all about and some of the struggles that she was dealing with. And one of the things that was mentioned in the doc as well was she was she is the star of her own Broadway show, but she's also playing like fifth lead in a sketch. She has no ego about it, and it's all radiant positive energy. So
She'll do whatever she asks you to do.
Right.
You ask her to do to make the sketch succeed.
Exactly. And that's really what's key, is having the sketch in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
And to follow that up, I'm going to do it here. I'm picking Keenan Thompson.
Yep.
With my pick here.
You know what's funny? Before you go into Keenan Thompson, I thought you were going to take him first or second, just because of your love for him.
I love Keenan Thompson.
And there was a guy that, I almost stole from you, not because I like him, but because I just wanted to steal him to be a bastard.
Yeah. I think Keenan Thompson is truly one of the legends of sketch comedy, and I think his body of work is vastly underappreciated. You can build sketches around Keenan. You can throw him in and just give him a look. He doesn't even have to have a line, and he will make the sketch funny. And I've literally only heard the best things about him from every cast member he's worked with over his 45 years of being on SNL.
You're right. Well, what's funny is he's been writing sketches longer than we've been alive.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
And so many writers have talked about, like, the sketch isn't working. What do we do? I just throw Keenan in there.
Throw Keenan in there.
And then all of a sudden the sketch starts working. Again, we talked before about how he's not my favorite performer, but he is definitely, the term Mount Rushmore is kind of overused, but he might be on the Mount Rushmore of sketch comedy, just because of how long he's been doing it and how consistent he is. He always gets laughs. That's a special kind of power that I think at this point in the draft, getting a plug and play guy like that can also star, that's a great pick.
And I got a great dynamic duo with him and Chris Redd. They've won like 2 Emmys in the last 2 years together.
Boom. Yeah.
So I'm loving it. I'm loving what I got now.
And some musical talent as well.
The musical talent there, yeah.
He played a lobster, I think.
That is truly one of the greatest sketches in SNL history.
Remarkable.
It's amazing. From the mind of John Mulaney, and I wish I got him as my host, because he's in that bag of hosts.
Oh my goodness.
My God, oh my God. Imagine.
Should we do a quick rundown of who's in the bag of hosts?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, now would be a good time at the end of the round.
Quick rundown here of who's in the bag of hosts.
That makes me upset now.
I know. Goodness.
Because Bill Hader and John Mulaney would have been
one of the top ones I wanted. So, also in this bag of hosts, we got Scarlett Johansson.
That's a great one.
You'd have to pick Colin Jost then.
You would.
Paul Rudd.
Oh,
classic.
Good with Amy Poehler.
Peyton Manning.
Oh,
that's interesting.
He's hosted, I think, 2 episodes of SNL,
and he was very funny.
Very funny both times.
Yeah, I think that's one that you'd really have to change the draft.
You'd have to work with it there. Jason Momoa hosted this last year.
I was interested to see if you put Jason Momoa in it. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Tiffany Haddish.
Great pick.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Papyrus is my favorite sketch of all time.
It's great. Your man crush, John Hamm.
Oh. Ooh, man.
Both of our man crush.
Yeah. Well, here's my man crush. I don't know if it...
Chance the Rapper.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, that's a great one.
Chance the Rapper, obviously.
Yeah. John Mulaney, as previously
probably
mentioned.
the best for me.
It's probably this one.
Adam Driver.
Yeah, there it is. Love Adam Driver.
And then The Rock.
Those are some great hosts. I definitely think they would have changed my picks personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good selection of hosts. Good job, Jack.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'll be here for as long as quarantine's happening.
Okay, so now Jack just had 2 picks. Yes. Tyler, you're back up.
All right. And again, I feel very chill with my choices now.
You're feel relaxing at the end of the draft.
I feel like these are like, I think I'm going to get like who I want. And I think this is someone who's similar to Bobby Moynihan. I did not find that funny, but over the last few years, I found them very funny. I think they're pretty versatile. And I'm going to go with Kobe. I'm going to go with A.D. Bryant.
I like it.
I think A.D. Bryant is very underrated. I think again, I think Kate McKinnon steals the show every time, but I think A.D. Bryant really pairs off well with her, and I think she would pair well with like someone like Amy Poehler, and I think she's, again, I have a lot of writers in this and a lot of Weekend Update people, but I think she is going to be very just good as like a person you can put in a sketch, similar to a Keenan Thompson.
I'm a big fan of A.D. Bryant. She was someone who was on my board for one of these later picks in the draft. An alumni of my school, Columbia College of Chicago.
Wow.
I've heard
Incredible.
all my teachers have great things to say about her.
That's very nice to hear.
She seems so wholesome. And again, she can play like a grandmother type character, and she can also play like a weird child character.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. That's true. She does play a lot of like children.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the dad sketches where she's like, "Oh, your dad's so hot."
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, "What are you saying?"
And Drake was in one
And
of those.
Drake was in one of those,
There you
exactly.
go.
So,
All right. So I've got back-to-back picks here. I'm going with Molly Shannon.
Molly Shannon, interesting.
Shannon.
interesting pick.
I really like Molly Shannon. I think it was a toss-up between her and like Rachel Dratch. I think in a lot of ways they do a lot of the same sort of things. Some things differently as well. But I really like Molly Shannon. I think she is sort of criminally underrated. She's almost always in the classics in some capacity. And similarly with all my other draft picks, I feel like she just gives me versatility. I think she's a really good actor. She's in a show that I really like called Divorce on HBO with Sarah Jessica Parker. My cast right now, Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, and Molly Shannon, and then Eddie Murphy, Will Forte, and Bobby Moynihan, 3 and 3. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So now I'm getting into this area where I'm down to the last few picks here, and I still need some things. So at this point, I'm going to take a guy who gives me what I think I need. Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey.
Yep.
I need an impressionist, a male impressionist particularly. I need a game show host type guy, and I think an update guy. I think he fills that, and I think he does the straight man very well. He's in a slew of classic SNL sketches. He'll work in whatever capacity I need him to work in. Dana Carvey's my pick.
I like it. Dana Carvey can do lots of political impressions for you. Great impressionist just overall, which is something you definitely need on your SNL cast.
And so now I have one more pick. Tyler, you have two more picks.
And I got
Jack,
two more
you have
picks.
two more picks.
Back to back. Two more back to back. Oof.
Yeah, so I am struggling here because there are a lot of really funny people still on here. God, yeah, there are a lot of great people, and I'm kind of, I guess I might take one more person that can be like a plug and play character, and then I'll go for my heavy hitter because there's just so many heavy hitters still that I want to go for, that I'm hesitant about. So
Chris Farley, Will Ferrell, both still on the board.
Yeah. Same
Remarkable.
with John Belushi. Mike Myers is
Jim
still
Belushi.
there. Jim Belushi still on there. Daryl Hammond, more of an impressionist. But yeah, I'm going to go with Rachel Dratch.
Good pick.
Fun pick.
And I think it's really important that we do a Debbie Downer sketch.
Yeah.
And Amy Poehler is there.
Yeah.
And Amy Poehler will laugh. And I think my bestest friend in the world, Chloe, and I watch SNL together a lot. We watched SNL a lot during quarantine together, and we watched all the Debbie Downer sketches. And again, they're just really funny because it's just like no one can keep it together, and it just really shows how much everyone loves Rachel Dratch. And yeah, I think that's my pick.
Pairing her up with Amy Poehler, can't argue with that.
Good pick. Good pick. And so now Tyler and I are both down to our last picks. Jack, you have back-to-back.
I have my last two picks.
You have your
here.
last two picks.
This first one, I'm going with Mikey Day.
Wow.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Big surprise.
Yeah.
Big surprise.
I have my own feelings about him.
I love Mikey Day. I think he fills that role as the straight man for me.
Does, yeah.
I think he's a very talented sketch performer, and I thought they utilized him very well this last season, and I have big hopes for his future on my cast.
I have very little to say about Mikey Day. He wasn't on my board. Was he on your board, Tyler?
He was not. Jack and I have discussed this. I don't really. We've all discussed this. I don't really like him that much, but I can definitely say that he's talented and that he is very versatile. You can plug him in really as like the straight character in something, and also like I think he plays DJ Junior or DJ T Junior really well. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. He's a fun guy to have around.
Fun
Definitely.
guy to have around.
Gives you what you need at this point in the draft.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so I'm on my last pick here, which is hard to say because there's so many people on the board. But still, I don't know where to go.
That's why I'm not stressed out right now.
We could do a whole second draft.
And still have really heavy hitters.
That would be our expansion team.
Expansion team.
And it could be
we
viable.
could go down to 12 and still have viable teams here.
Sure could.
But this is already quite long.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Pull the trigger.
I'm going to do it. Norma Mcdonald.
Oh, yeah, I knew it!
I'm putting Norma Mcdonald on my team.
I forgot about it, but yeah.
I think Norma Mcdonald is quite literally one of the funniest people to ever live.
Mm-hmm.
I think a Weekend Update desk with him and Tina Fey would be quite interesting to watch.
I totally agree.
I would absolutely try it out at the very least. And, you can put Norm in sketches too, as Norm, basically. He really can't play much anything else, but I love Norm Macdonald, and, he wasn't someone I was going to pick initially. But screw it. Here we are. I'm picking Norm Macdonald. I love the guy.
Norm Macdonald is on my personal Mount Rushmore for stand-up comics.
For sure.
And
for people, he's on my Mount Rushmore.
Like you said, one of the funniest people in the world. I mean, it's an odd pick at the end, but it's also a great pick.
It's not something I thought about doing. There were probably a good 12 people still on my list who I was thinking of picking instead of Norm Macdonald. Yet, here we are.
All right, Tyler, you are up with your final pick. Jack took a quintessentially Jack pick. Are you going to take a quintessentially Tyler pick, or are you going to fill a need that you still don't have?
So, this last round has been very interesting, and this person hasn't been on my draft board at all, but seeing that he's still there, and he definitely fills a role and can make some sketches that I really like, I will pick him. But first, I think I'm going to say some people that I was really debating about, since there's only one more pick left. Jay Farrow is still on the list. I think Bill Hader more or less fills his role.
Can't wait for Bill Hader's Jay-Z impression, personally.
Well, yeah. Taron Killam is great also. Chris Rock also. I think Chris Rock falls under the... He's not very... Like, he's more well-known for other things that aren't SNL at this point in his career. And I really wanted to go with Tracy Morgan, because I think Tracy Morgan's so much fun. But with the cast I have currently, I think we do need someone who pairs well with these people, and someone who, again, feeds like a comedy itch for me in a lot of my lives. I'm going to go with Will Ferrell.
All right.
I think Will Ferrell, he was not on my draft board. I think it always tends to sometimes become the Will Ferrell show, but I think something like Jeopardy is really good to have him in, and I think that's one of his most famous ones, and he plays the straight man in it, which is actually kind of funny. And Amy Poehler and Will Ferrell, I think, work really well together, so put him in there. And yeah, I think that's my cast.
It does seem crazy that a list of SNL greats would not include a guy like Will Ferrell, whether you like him or not. Definitely just one of the staples of SNL history.
Certainly.
And
someone who I really aspire towarded. Or I used to aspire toward, like, in high school, and I feel like my comedy style was very Will Ferrell. Now it's kind of turned into something else, but like...
Well, that's why I don't like your comedy. I kid.
But yeah, Will Ferrell, again, I think it is a quintessential, like, your Norm pick is pretty quintessential you, and like, for a point in my life, I think Will Ferrell was very quintessential me in a lot of ways. And again, surprising that he definitely could have not been drafted, which is funny. But yeah.
I think what's very interesting about this whole draft, and what's important to keep in mind, is this is not like ranking the best ever SNL cast members. This is fitting them into a cast that you would want to see and see how it works with. So I think that's why we're seeing some people like Chris Farley, like Jim Belushi, like Dan Aykroyd, who are some of the greatest ever to be on SNL fall undrafted here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because that's definitely true. With my last pick, I'm going to take, I suppose it is quintessentially Daniel because he still is a terrific actor, and all of my everybody that I've selected is just a great actor beyond just sketch. But at the same time, it's not quite a Daniel pick because if this is my Avengers, I still need a Hulk, I think. I'm going with Chris Farley.
Yep.
I think the reason that I'm going to go with Chris Farley is because he is an animal, but that's only half of it. He is literally the Hulk. He goes full Hulk mode, but he's also Bruce Banner. And there's a lot of sketches where he shows more range than he's sort of given credit for. He plays sincere really, really well. He can play that childlike sincerity. There's sketches where he's, oh God, who was it? It was the host of the week. I forget who it was, but it was a famous actress. And it was basically him going into her dressing room and being like, all nervous and talking to her and like, oh, gee, like, I don't know how to talk to girls. And I'm so stupid, doing that classic Chris Farley stuff. And I love his sincerity. I think you can put him in a sketch like Da Bear's sketches where he just is sitting there silent for half of it until he chokes on a piece of meat.
Big old sausage.
Big old thing. He can. I think he can do more than he is given credit for. I think when taking him, because that's a guy that could have been taken number one in a lot of drafts.
Absolutely.
I think when taking him, you want the Hulk, but I actually want the Bruce Banner more than I want the Hulk. And I think that obviously he passed way too soon. I think in his later stages of life, he probably would have shown more of that nuanced side to him than he got the opportunity to do on SNL. But I feel really good about that. So let's all just go through our selections one more time. My host being Justin Timberlake, a musical talent, just a big, fun personality. He's not afraid to be silly. And so I feel like I could put him in just about any sketch, but he can also play sort of a straight man. He's had some serious roles in his career. So he gives me what I need. Kate McKinnon, Maya Rudolph, Eddie Murphy, Will Forte, Bobby Moynihan, Molly Shannon, Dana Carvey, and Chris Farley. I think just going through some of those types, game show host. I feel pretty good about Dana Carvey. I feel pretty good about Will Forte as a Weekend Update figure. Dana Carvey, I feel good about. In an alternate reality, again, Maya Rudolph. Characters coming on to Weekend Update, Kate McKinnon, obviously one of the best. Eddie Murphy, one of the best. I like Bobby Moynihan's drunk uncle. I think he can come on to Weekend Update. Same with Molly Shannon and Chris Farley, all these characters. The Animal, I've got, in some respects, Chris Farley, and then interchangeably with that as well, Eddie Murphy, who can go totally ballistic, as well as Kate McKinnon. I feel like they all provide that. And then the straight man, I think Kate McKinnon can do that. I think, well, to be honest, I think every single one of my people can do that. And then for impressions, also Dana Carvey. So, I feel like I got basically everything that you need on an SNL cast with my 8, and I think they all complement Justin Timberlake. I think Justin Timberlake more so complements them as well because of his ability to do anything and be open to it. Tyler, how about you?
Yeah, my host again is Drake, and what I was really going for was just more of a modern cast, and a cast that can, again, with heavy writers and people that can make really fun stuff for Drake to do. But yeah, here's my cast. It's Bill Hader, Amy Poehler, Michael Che, Bowen Yang, Melissa Villasenor, A.D. Bryant, Rachel Dratch, and Will Ferrell. I think Ferrell really can do like outlandish characters, but again, he can do game show. Same with Bill Hader. Bill Hader's the impressionist here. He can do a lot of impressions, like political or not. You got to put my boy Bowen Yang in there. High potential for Bowen Yang and Melissa Villasenor. I think they can pop into Weekend Update. I think Bowen Yang could probably be a Weekend Update host, if I'm being honest too. But they're definitely like side players that can also be the stars if they want to be. I think that's my whole cast really. They're very versatile, and I think they can bring it back or bring it forward whenever they want. again, you get Will Ferrell in there for Jeopardy. You got a lot of impressions. You also can do classic sketches with like Rachel Dratch, like Debbie Downer and stuff. Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler can do their, cheer sketch. There's a lot there, and I'm very happy with my team. But yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say about my guys and gals. But yeah, I think it's a fun group that would mesh well together also, because I think their comedy styles are pretty similar in a lot of ways, and all led by Michael Che and maybe John Mulaney if Bill Hader can convince him.
Bringing in outside people now. We're gonna bring in people's friends.
Jack, how about you? Your team.
I love my cast. It's a cast that I personally would want to watch. I don't know if it would be the most successful cast in the world for everyone, but for me, it certainly would be. I got Melissa McCarthy as my host, who I think can do a little bit of everything. Big energy there from her. I got Kristen Wiig, Tina Fey. Just great stuff from both of them. Tina Fey might throw on the Weekend Update desk with my later pick, Norma Mcdonald, which I think makes for a fascinating combination. Fred Armisen I got, who I think plays really well with Kristen Wiig, and who you can put in like the main theme for my cast. I think you can put any of these people in any sketch at all. I got Chris Redd, Keenan Thompson. I think that certainly applies to them. Gilda Radner is just a true star, really, who I can build a whole show around, or I can have her be a background character. Mikey Day is my straight man. I like Mikey Day a lot of potential there. And then Norm Macdonald, I just had to do it. That's just one of my personal favorites, and I had to put him on my team.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, before we finish up, any last thoughts just on SNL, on people that maybe were forgotten? Any final thoughts at all?
I think for SNL in general, I think the show itself is in a very good place right now. Pre-quarantine, that is. I did not enjoy the quarantine shows as much, but I think the cast in general right now is extremely talented, and I think they work very well together.
And I think that's proven by our picks. A lot of our picks are more modern cast members. Tyler, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out some people that we didn't talk about. Love him or hate him, I think Pete Davidson is a good guy just to have around.
Definitely thought about picking him with my Norm Macdonald pick.
Yeah. I think love him or hate him, I think Pete Davidson is going to do some stuff in the future. I didn't realize Chris Elliott was on SNL.
One season.
Jimmy Fallon.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
I almost picked her. Chloe Fineman. She's new on the cast. I think she's very funny. Al Franken, I think's solid.
Canceled,
but solid. Oh, I did almost put Gilbert Gottfried on my wait, hold up, on my draft board. Not my list.
I almost took him third, but then after he didn't get drafted, I just didn't take him.
I almost took him first overall. Again, Phil Hartman. I think if someone was really missing a Bill Hader type, I think Phil Hartman would have been great. Again, Leslie Jones, I think, is a lover or hater type person. I think she's very talented.
Leslie Jones grew on me a lot over the years.
Same here. Colin Jost. I genuinely think if someone picked Scarlett Johansson, we would have had Colin Jost. Yeah. I kind of said Taron Killam. John Lovitz has not been mentioned at all.
Yeah.
And he would hate that.
and he would love that. Yeah, Seth Meyers would have filled someone's role. How do you guys feel about Kyle Mooney and Beck Bennett?
Like Beck Bennett, don't like Kyle Mooney.
Like Beck Bennett, don't like Kyle Mooney.
Like Beck Bennett, don't like Kyle Mooney that much.
Beck Bennett was someone who I was considering for my straight guy pick.
That would have been a good pick, because I think he also is a really good actor. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was close to Mike Myers also. Mm-hmm. I think Mike Myers and Dana Carvey would have been a good little combo. Chris Parnell also. That was really close. But I felt like my future players were Bowen Yang and Melissa Villasenor. And again, we could go on. There's Rob Riggle. Just
Kevin Nealon.
Martin Short. I think if Steve Martin was a host, I think Martin Short would have been a good pick. But yeah, just a lot of talented people over the years.
Yep. And so just like you mentioned, there's so many people that weren't mentioned, but and as you mentioned, this isn't a top 10 list. It's really just about celebrating all the great and wonderful people that were on SNL throughout the history of that show. And I think that we ended up doing that today.
Yeah. And I'm really excited for the football game we're going to put them through.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got Norma Mcdonald at left end today, going after the quarterback.
Bobby Moynihan and Chris Farley, you got to...
I got a good football team.
You're going to be a pound the ball.
And Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
I got a great football team.
Wonderful.